Right, hi guys. So this is going to be a quick video into I've been experimenting with dialogue because I've always wanted to do dialogue, and every time I've tried to either use the dialogue plugin and not yet one, or something from the marketplace, or just just looking at YouTube, it's crap. It's not all crap, but like a lot of it doesn't really work for anything bigger than like a game jam game. So there's the things that it's great or whatever on YouTube. You see things that they work for game jam games, they don't work for real games. So I'm trying to figure out a better way of doing it. So I make a system and I can put the actors in, and I can if I just need to add a character and they'll just have dialogue in it, it'll just work without having to make a whole new actor with a whole new blueprint craziness. So I'm going to show you what I've been making so far. So if I go in, so I've just got my little world here, it's just normal third person, except I've got my jump, which I did that in a different video if you want to know how I did that. So I've got a few different types of NPCs that just do different things, but it's all like kind of dialogue. So this is the first guy. So you walk up to him, so you'll walk into the collision box. You'll have his little pop-up there. That could be anything. That could be like a marker, like this guy. It's got his little marker, symbol. So it could be anything, but I've just put words for this. So I press E or mouse button or something. Dialogue, you saw this typewriter effect. And you also notice when you read the dialogue, he says my name. So he says, "Hi Donnie, I just used the key code." And as he explains, when I write player _ name in capitals, the game replaces it with a name chosen by the player. So the player blueprint has got a variable in it, which is character name. The actor component, which is on the NPC character, will basically get a reference to the player name. There's a whole replace thing, which I'll show you in a minute, but basically, it looks through the string and it finds where the key codes are, so like, player _ name, and then it replaces that with whatever I've put as like the variable, or whatever. So that's that. So there's that, and if I just click again, that's it. He ends back into the game. I've got this guy here. He's pretty much the same, except I've made him as a different thing, so he just says random lines. The way I did this was I just had an integer, which was just like, I have an integer for the conversation, so I say conversation ID, so I can have multiple different conversations, and I select them by just using an integer. So I'll click this, blah 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 blah. If I click again, and it'll just say random lines. He does repeat a lot though. There we go. Like I added like 8, but he still repeats the same ones over and over again. It's a bit annoying. I could just change it and just branch and just say, if this integer was the same as the last one, then don't use that one, do a different one, but yeah. I got that. This guy is exactly the same as the first guy, except he's not using the key codes, he's just showing that I can do multiple lines in a conversation. This one, you just walk up and it's just random people just chatting shit. It's pretty cool. I didn't really extend this one much. I'm gonna extend it so it's properly, so you can have different people, up to like 3 or 4 people talking and just saying random stuff. Be pretty cool. That's basically it. I'm gonna make a shop at some point, but I've not done it yet. I'm gonna make like inventory system first or something. I don't know. But that's that anyway. So I'll show you how I did it. This won't be too in depth. I'm just going to show you the blueprints. I might do a more in depth one, like an actual tutorial, but I'm experimenting and stuff, so it's not really, you know, some of it might not properly work yet. We don't know. But so if you've ever seen, Matthew, starts with a W. He does the WTF is Unreal videos, and he did one which was like the storyteller, which I based it off of that. So if you look at that video, that will show you how to do the initial setup, really. And then all I did was just change it a bit, just so I could, you know, use NPC characters. So you know, I'll go straight from the NPC. It might be a bit better. So first of all, I have a BPI blueprint interface. It's going to have interact, finish line, and set conversation ID. That's just so I can just talk to the different blueprints and stuff. I put it in NPC. So I've got 3 different. So I got my speech bubble guy. That's just the guy who does the speech bubble. Random conversation guy is that guy in the middle. Linear conversation basic, that is the 2 guys who actually had proper dialogue. So we're going to go into that one. So begin play. It's going to find the player character. It's going to do this. This is just for the speech bubble when you walk in. This here is the part where I set the conversation ID. The cool thing about this system is that I could pretty much do anything to change the conversation ID to, you know, progress the story. I could do a trigger that sets, you know, actors 1, 2, and 3's conversation ID to something else, so you can change multiple actors' conversations in one go, which would be cool for like quests and finishing quests and going to different areas and all that. So yeah, triggers I could do it with. I could put something in to make it so at the end of the conversation all the conversation IDs change. I could do it if you just open a door or you interact with an object or something, then all the conversation IDs change. I could do like a bunch of different things. So this is why I really like the system. So here I've just done it as begin play, but I mean I could do all sorts of things. I could get rid of that and then have it in the game change as I do different things as I interact with the world. So my player character has a line trace. So a line trace, he'll find the actors with the tag interactable, and then it will fire off this message. There's tutorials on how to do blueprint, you know, interface stuff. It's not very hard, and line traces, it's not very hard. You can find it pretty easily. So I've got my actor component here that I've attached to the NPC. I get a reference to it. I send a message to it to interact. As well as that, it gets rid of that speech bubble. That could be a speech bubble or the icon or whatever you had above his head. And then as well, it goes into timeline. This just makes him look towards the character. Not very complicated. The timeline is literally just like a curve from 0 to 1. And it's just like an alpha that I use here. And I get the actor rotation, you know, the initial rotation. I find the look at, so I'm getting the player's location as well as this NPC's location. I'm going to go through the alert, and it's just going to do that. Anyway, this is what it's about. So, you know, he interacts, he looks at the character. I've also got the finish line thing as well. This is what happens when he's in dialogue. So I've set the character states as an enum, so he'll be either like roaming, or he's in a menu, or he's in dialogue. When he's in dialogue, then he presses the interact button. It fires off the finish line event. So that's that. So he's going to interact. That runs this bit. So the actor component, the character dialogue, is going to find, set the player character. Going to set the player state to dialogue, so that's what I just mentioned a second ago. It's going to set the player name. So that's how you can see here, player name Donnie. So I could change that, and then we could jump in, which I'll do later, and then you'll see that the NPC says a different name. We create the widget, we add it to the viewport, we get the text box from the widget. We also get the name box, which is just another text box. I use the character's name. So on the NPC, I've got all these variables here. I don't need that one. Here for the conversation, seeing key codes, so I've got player name, CName, which is the character name, which is a public variable, so when I drop the NPC in, I can just name the NPC as long as his name is in the data table, which I'll get onto in a minute. His name will show up, and you'll have all the correct lines ready working. Bind event or text done. This just finishes the conversation. I'll get to that in a minute. Data table. So data table. This is cool. So this is kind of the most complicated part. This is an experimental thing. I've not done data tables really before. That was really weird trying to figure it out. So I have an Excel sheet. It's got 2 lines of 2 columns of data. It's actually the first column going down is all the names of the characters, and then the second column going down, it's going to have the dialogue. I've done it kind of, this is a part where I'm like, it works, but depending on how big of a system I need, it might, it'll still work, but it might be a bit, annoying to get through, which, I'll get to this because I put all the dialogue in one box in the Excel sheet, which, as you can imagine, is like, why would you do that? But I'll tell you why I did that, because I can break the struct, and which I'll get to in a bit, but I have my dialogue array, which is my conversations. So literally this is just a one box, so it's going to get all the different dialogues I've got. So it's going to get the conversation IDs, it's going to say what conversation it is, and here we get to the cool bit. So you're wondering, like, well, you put all the conversations into one box. It's like, yeah, I did, but I did it as an array in the box. So, I have an array of conversations. And then you're going to be like, well, don't you need an array for all the lines? And yes, you, sir, are correct. And I found this node called pass into array, which is the tits of nodes for dialogue, apparently. So basically, the string, so I have my whole conversation will go into this. When it goes into this, it's going to find the @ symbol. Every time it finds an @ symbol, it's going to make a new array item. So I'm making arrays from arrays, and I don't have to like faff about with like a bunch of stuff. All I do is when I'm writing the dialogue and I'm like, oh, I need a new line, I just put the @ symbol, like, done. It's going to set the current conversation. It's going to run the storyteller. So storyteller, this is going to work basically the same way as in the WTF is Matthew guys videos. So I have a current line which will add, so what I do is, as you see, the default is -1 because array starts at 0, and because I'm going to plus every time at the start, you put it at 0, it's going to start on like the second line, but if you put it at -1, it will plus 1 to 0, and then it starts on the first line of the array. So I'm not going to get too into this part because, to be honest, the other guy in the other video explains it better, so I'll probably link it in the description or something. But, you know, it'll set the current line. It'll be like, is this greater than the length of the array? No, it's not going to be. Is it less than 0? No, sorry, is it greater than 0? So basically, is it the first line? If it's true, it's not going to do anything. If it's false, it's going to go through this. So this basically auto plays. This all kind of auto plays. After this point, the player has to click the mouse to continue the conversation. So there's no like auto scrolling or anything like that. So clear the text box, set text length to 0, and finish text now. He explains it in the other video. The text length is the part that's different, because what I do is, because I use key codes, it changes the length of the string, because obviously if I'm typing player underscore name, which is going to be, you know, like 12 or 13, I can't remember, characters, and it changes to Bob, which is 3 characters. When I do a check later to see if the line's finished, it'll kind of mess stuff up. So anyway, I'll get into it in a bit. Check if on last line, if it's on the last line, it'll blank and then call text done, and that is up here. Basically resets everything. See, so it sets character to Roman, sets current line to -1, sets current string to nothing, remove from parent, so it gets rid of the widget from the screen. If we're not on the last line, I'm going to go into the next one to display. So display text, which we're not going to go into yet because we're going to get into replace text first, because this happens before. So this is the whole key code stuff. It's really simple. It's really simple when you've not got a lot. I'm going to be extending, I'm going to make a different thing for like loot boxes and stuff, because I'll have to go through like a whole list of items and the quantity of items. I've already tested it. I've got a thing that works, but I didn't want to put it all in this same thing because it just makes it unnecessarily spaghetti, which we ain't about that. So as you can see, it's going to get the player name, which is in the player blueprint. Going to find player underscore name. It's case sensitive. It's looking at the current line, and then it's going to reset that line to include what the new thing is. And then obviously we're going to set the new text length so that we know how many characters are in this new string. This is a string, this is the done string that is going to be in the speech box. So now we go to display text, and we've got this little bit here. So this is basically the part that makes the typewriter effect. So it's just, get substring length 1. This is in the WTF video, so I'm not going to go too into it, but it just does 1 letter at a time, and then it's checking if I've pressed a button. So if I click the mouse or press E while the typewriter's effect is still going, it will set this boolean to true, and when it's true it will just set the string just straight away, so you don't have to wait for the typewriter effect, and then it will just go into the next bit. Well, it just finishes the string actually. I don't think this does anything. So we're going to go false. So saying that I don't press it, it's going to check if the line is finished. So this is the part that's different. I'm getting the text, I'm converting it to a string, I'm checking the length of the string to see if it's the same as the text length that I set in the replace text function. If it's true, it's done. You know what, actually I'm going to do that again. I think that does a plus thing. So anyway, if it's false, it's going to run this function again, and it's just going to go through every letter until it's done. I have my delay between letters here, 0.01. Oh, for the love of God, don't set it high. It takes forever. So yeah, that's display text. So we'll go back into here. So that's pretty much it, really. It's going to display the text, and then I'm going to go to this bit. So this is where I press the button. So it's going to run the storyteller at the end of display text. It's going to get this far, but you know, it's going to stop here. And when it stops here, it's basically waiting for me to press the button. So you see how I've got the finish line. Like I said, when the player blueprint, when the game state enum is in dialogue, when I press, you know, the interact button, it's gonna fire off this event finish line. And all it's gonna do, you know, checks if the line's finished. If it's not finished, it's going to check if it's at the end of the dialogue. If it's not at the end of the dialogue, finish now text, it's just going to skip the typewriter effect. If it is at the end of the dialogue, it's going to call all text done, clear it, you know, we finished dialogue, gets rid of it. If I click it and you know, the text length is equal to, you know, if the line's finished, the typewriter effect, we're going to clear the box. I'm going to set the text length to 0, that's really important. We're going to set this to false as well, which is really important. Remember that's there. Then we're checking if it's last line. If it's not the last line, it's going to get the next line. And then, boom, display text again. True, it's going to call the text done. That's pretty much it. It's it was really complicated and stuff to figure out, but once I've figured it out, it's not too bad. It's just a bit of a mindfuck for the first like week you think about it. When you get into the second week, you're pretty insane anyway, so it's fine. I'll show you the random conversation. It's pretty much the same thing, except when I finish the line, it's just going to set a random integer. I just have like a min and a max, and he's just going to set a random one, and just pick a random conversation. So I'll show you the data tables and stuff. So it's in storytellers in my spreadsheets. So basically I made a Google Sheets thing. Like I said earlier, it's 2 columns. The first column is just the names of the characters. The second column is all the dialogue arrays that I put in. So first I made a struct. All it is dialogue array. That's all that's in it. The character names will be in the first row anyway, so they'll show up. So you don't need to put it, like I originally I did put it and realised, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. So then I imported it, so it was a CSV, I think the file was. And then as you can see here, I've just put random stuff in. Well, you can see this dialogue array. It's pretty mad. So I'll look at this one. So, you know, I wish, oh, you can. So you can see how crazy this little dialogue thing gets. But you can see, like, what I did in Excel is, you know, I just put brackets, and then you just use speech marks for each conversation. And then when you want to change the line, all you do is you put an @ symbol, and then it makes a different line. That's it. It's pretty easy. It was a bit weird getting it to work at the start. For some reason there's these like slashes. I didn't put that in the Excel, that just shows up in this. I don't know why that does that. But as you can see, because they're all speech marks, it just makes an array. So I've got all these different conversations. You know, that's it. And then if I go back to my data table bit, you know, I get the data table, I write whatever the character's name is, it will find the character's name, So look, Jeeves, Kyle, random man. It's just gonna look for that, and then once it's got that, it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, look, oh, I got all the conversations. Oh look, that symbol. Oh look, it works. It's done. It's fucking pretty good. Figured it out. But that's it so far. There's no multiple answers, multiple choices, anything like that. I might try it. I don't really need it for what I want, but if I was to do it, I'd probably have an array of integers, and basically for the array I'd have the select numbers of what line I would want to have the multiple choice thing at, and then I'd have a check. When it's checking the current line, I'd have a branch and be like, is the current line equal to any of these integers that are in the array? And then if it is, then have an event that displays a new widget, and then it'll have the choices on there. And then when you select that widget, it might I'd change the conversation ID, be easier, because then you can just reset everything and just change the conversation ID. So I might try that in a bit, but I don't need it at the moment. But yeah, so that's the dialogue system as it is at the moment. I'm gonna expand it. I want to make it a bit cleaner if I can, in just different ways. I want to make quests, but I think the first thing I'm going to start after is the inventory system. Once I've done that, then I can do like the loot boxes in the shop and stuff like that. But I hope you found this useful. I know this is a lot of experimental and like crazy stuff. If you found better ways of doing it, tell me, because dialogue is really, really hard. It was really, really hard to figure this out. And I understand the feels of everyone who's wanting to do it and doesn't know how to do it and can't find a good source of information. So I'm hoping this is a decent source of information for you guys to sort of steal off and make it better and all that. So yeah, that's the end of the video anyway. So cheers guys, see you in a bit.